Hi guys, this is Carol Wiggins, and I want to go over the first textbook project for Excel Chapter 1. I will do a video for this for each of the textbook projects. The textbook project is exactly that. It's what is done in the textbook. I will go through all of the steps and everything that you need to do to submit it and get a 100. I will also show you some shortcuts that the book doesn't really go through. I think they're good to know them. I think the textbook has you do extra work that's not necessarily necessary. And we all know we don't want to have to do extra work. So let's not do extra work. Okay, so when you log into Cengage, and you get into my class, which most of y'all have already done that. If you haven't, please make sure that you do. We're going to go into Excel. You should see this. Now, your screen might be a little bit different than mine because this is the instructor version of it. You can see how many have submitted and the average score. It's not showing individual scores, so we're pretty good there. To go over the assignments just really quick, this is the training. This is a simulation, kind of shows you how to do the basics of everything. The exam is the same thing as the training, it just doesn't tell you how to do it. You have to do it on your own. These are the two projects that you will do yourself. And then this is the textbook project that I'm going to actually go through and give you tips and tricks and help you kind of get through it so that you can do these other two projects. My recommendation is that you do the textbook project prior to doing these two other projects, simply because it's going to give you some insight into how to do these projects. But in all honesty, it's entirely up to you what order in which you do the textbook project. Do the projects themselves, or really any of it. So let's get started on the textbook project. If you open this up, it's going to come in. Notice that it says the textbook project is not fully compatible with a Mac. I would really say this is the case for all of the projects. Some colors are different. Some themes are different. Some fonts are different between the Mac and the PC. So I would really recommend that you do these projects on a PC and not on a Macintosh. You might be able to do it through Office 365. If all you have is a Mac, I would try to go to the school library or somewhere else that has a Windows-based machine that has Office 2016. And you can start the project and you can do a lot of it on a Macintosh and then finish it up on a PC and then submit it from there. And that's just so that you can get all of the points available. I'm going to click Start. Now, if you've already started the project, which I've done this several times, it kind of goes all the way over here to step 2 of 2 because it says, hey, you've already started, so you don't need the rest of it. So I'm going to go back to step 1. Step 1 here, this is your reading. Okay, if you click on this and this window does not pop up, it's because you should have a little sign up here if you're using Chrome that says a pop-up was blocked. Please make sure that you turn on pop-ups so that this will actually open up. This is your textbook, and the parts that we're doing, I will show you. Like, this is page 1 and 2 of your textbook. If you go to the next page, little bit of information. Go into this one. Still more information on entering text. And then finally here we go, this 1.3a to enter worksheet titles. And notice it has this step 1, run Excel and create a blank workbook. Okay, these are the questions that make up the textbook project. So it literally comes straight from within the textbook. Now the only difference is here it says the first step, run Excel and create a blank workbook. This is where you are going to actually go into here and you're going to use this download, this file here, this start file. Okay, this start file is a blank workbook, and you need to enable editing if that comes up. But if you notice the name of it up here, you know, it's going to have your name in it. And it's going to have different markers and things that Cengage needs to be able to grade your project. So make sure that you use that starter document, okay? And then from there, then we will start going through each of these steps, okay? I'm going to move this off to the side because you don't really need to see that. I will read through the steps as we go through it. So let's get started. Okay. Step one was to run the Excel and make cell A1 active, which it already is. Step two is we're going to type personal budget worksheet in cell A1. One thing to know is Pearson is going to be Cengage. I use Pearson at Blinn. Cengage is going to be very particular on spelling. Don't make any typos. If it tells you to use a capital letter, use a capital letter. If it tells you to put in a space, put in a space. And make sure that you spell all of the pieces right, which I wasn't spelling that right. One thing, I had some students already asking me about this, and even on some of the projects, they were like, I did everything and I turned it in, but it graded it wrong. Well, it was because their sheet, when they renamed the sheet, was named improperly. There was a spelling error. Well, when Pearson tries to go to a specific sheet, that is, Cengage goes to a specific sheet that is named something, it expects that name. And if it doesn't see that name, then it's going to count it wrong because it says, hey, this sheet doesn't even exist. All you have to do is change the sheet name and have it spelled properly, and everything works and is graded right. So keep that in mind, especially if you're doing all of the steps and you're getting everything counted wrong. Chances are you have a spelling error somewhere. Okay. You can hit the enter key or the down arrow to go down to A2. For those of y'all who've never really used Excel before, columns are all done by letters and rows are all done by numbers. And where they intersect, this is F2, is how you identify that cell. So when we say A2, we mean column A, row 2. Okay, in A2, we're going to do monthly estimates. Okay, and then A3, we're going to type in income. And then I'm going to hit the tab key. So you can either hit the tab key or the arrow keys, either way. But the tab key, so the enter key makes you go up and down. The tab key, shift tab, or the left and right arrows make you go back and forth in a row. So we've got income. And then we are going to put the months of the year. Okay, now it tells you to type all of these in. And here is the first shortcut that I'm going to show you. I'm going to do January and I'm going to do February. Okay, now I'm going to do what's called a autofill. If you select January and February, both of those cells, and you grab this fill handle, that's this filled in square down in the bottom right hand corner. Notice as I put my cursor over it, my cursor changes to the plus. If you click and hold that and drag it, Notice how it finishes it for you. Okay, for me, that's a whole lot easier than trying to type all those months in. Okay, and then put total in N3. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing starting in A8, except for this time it's going to be expenses. And then I'm actually going to highlight all of these, copy, and paste. Again, shortcut, they wanted you to type everything. I'm one for doing things as quickly and easily as possible, so I copied and pasted. And let's also make sure that you don't make typing errors. Unless you made a typing error up here, then the typing error would be down here too. Okay, so now on the next step. In A4, we are going to type in wages. Okay, A5 is dividends. A6 is total. And then under expenses, we have rent, food, tuition, books, entertainment, car payment, gas, miscellaneous, and then total. And then in A19 we have net. Okay, so we've set up our spreadsheet, we've set up our data. Now we want to enter in the numbers for our spreadsheet. Okay, so we're going to start in B4, and we're going to type in 1417.12. Whoops. Okay, and they want you to put that in every cell across the way. Again, I'm going to do this easy, and I'm going to take the fill handle and I'm going to copy across. Notice it keeps it as the same number. Okay, before we selected 2 cells and copied across. When you select 2 cells like this and copy it across, Excel looks at it and says, hey, I'm incrementing. So that means you want me to increment as we continue on through the cells. That's why it incremented. Because I only had 1 cell selected when I copied, it says, okay, I don't want to increment, or you don't want me to increment, so I'm not going to. I'm going to simply copy it. Okay, if I wanted to increment, if I wanted 1 and 2, okay, I could take that and copy it over and notice how it increments. Okay, dividends, we have 4029.71 in January and in July. Okay, the rest of the time we have 0. So again, I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste. Because again, I'm for not having to duplicate. Okay, then we're going to continue on further down. Rent is 410. Food is 280. Entertainment is 100. Now I'm skipping around a little bit because I'm getting those rows that have the same number going all the way across. So the car payment, ooh, I wish my car payment was only $215. Okay. So now I'm going to take these cells. Well, you have to do adjacent, and I'm going to copy it over because it's the same across all the way. Again, I don't want to type it all. When you have to repeatedly type like that, it just leaves you prone to errors. Okay, so tuition, we have $1,500 in January, and books, we have $500 in January. For tuition, we have $300 300 in May. And we have 100 for books in May. And then in August, we have 1,500 in tuition again and 500 in books again. The rest of them are zeros. So I'm going to take this 0 up here and I'm going to copy and paste. Okay. If you're wondering how I'm doing that, I'm using keyboard shortcuts. It's just the same as if you were using it in Word. Control-C copies, and a Control-V as in Victor pastes, just like Word does. Okay? You can right-click and say copy, and then right-click and say paste. They'll do exactly the same thing. I just like the keyboard shortcuts because my hand's are already on the keyboard, so I might as well use it. Okay, so we have all of our data in. That was a whole lot faster than typing it all in. And we're going to go forward. Now we're going to start calculating, start making calculations. So this is one of the really powerful things that Excel can do, is it can create these calculations for you. Now, yes, I could come in here and type and say, what is 1,417 cents plus 4,029.71, and I could just put the results in there. You can do that. Okay, it would be wrong and it would be silly, but you can do that. Okay, why do we use references to our cells when we create formulas and functions? Well, it's because this data could change. Okay, you could get a raise in May, and then when you change this number, it changes automatically the cell when you reference that cell. If you don't reference the cell and you just put in a number, it's not going to change. So we're going to actually reference the cells. We're going to start here by creating doing a sum, and we're going to actually use what's called the Autosum feature. Up here on your Home tab, you have Autosum. You also have a down arrow that gives you some other options, but we want sum. Okay, I'm just going to click Autosum. It automatically puts the formula for you, and it selects all adjacent cells that have numbers in them. Okay, so since we don't have any adjacent cells left or right, it automatically is going to go up or down. If you have some left or right and up and down, you may have to manipulate what it picks. But in our case, this is easy. Okay, notice it says B4 colon B5. So the colon means inclusive. All cells inclusive in that area. Okay, I'm going to hit enter, and now it calculates for me. So I could come in here and, you know, say, oh, well, wait a minute. Okay, these are estimates, but I ended up getting paid $500 more, and I got $1,900. Notice how my calculation here automatically changes. That's why you want to make sure that you reference your cells. Okay? Okay, then we're going to do the same thing in B17, and I'm going to do Autosum. Notice it did all of these. It did B9 through B16 because it took all adjacent cells that were numbers. Once it hit a cell that was no longer a number, it stopped. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter, and we've got our total there. Okay, and this is where the book first introduces you to the fill handle. That's what this little square down here is called. It's called the fill handle. Okay, when you're taking a formula that has these types of cell references in them and you use the fill handle, it will automatically change these for you. Okay, so if I copy this left and right, it's going to change my row numbers. It's going to, or my row references. So here we want it to be C4 to C5, D4 to D5. Well, instead of having you retype that every time, Excel will change it for you. So if I copy this over and release, and now let's look at these. It is, if you double click, you will have your cell references shown, C4 and C5, okay? Here again, D4 and D5. It increments those cell references for you. If you move or if you copy, you use the fill handle and copy those formulas up or down, it will change your row references. Okay. So we did that for row 6. And we want to do that for row 17 as well. So I'm going to come and I'm going to copy that over. And there's all of our totals. Okay. Next one, we want to go into N4. We're going to calculate these totals. Now, another really nice function. So this fill handle is very nice. Okay. Another nice thing, especially if you're going to do the same formula across multiple cells, if you select each of those cells and then click the Autosum, it will actually create that formula in each one of those cells. So that makes it really fast, especially here when we have a whole bunch to do. Okay, so first you're going to do it through N4 through N6, and then you're going to do it N9 through N19, and just click the Autosum, calculates everything for you. When you click in any of these cells, look up here on your formula bar and you're going to see the equation. Okay, next step. We are going to enter a formula using the keyboard. So we used some of the built-in functions and some of the autofills that are in there. Now we want to actually enter it in. Okay. I honestly don't use the keyboard to enter in my cells very often because it just doesn't make sense, at least to me, but you certainly can, and it really makes it kind of prone to errors, but we're going to type it anyway. Every single formula or function, no matter what, always starts with an equal sign. If I don't do an equal sign, so in this case, our net here is going to be our income minus our expenses, correct? So if I don't use an equal sign and I say B6 minus B17, well, Excel says, oh, you just typed in text, but it doesn't do anything. Okay? If I put an equal sign in front of there, now it says, oh, you're doing a calculation and you want to use your cell references. So that's what it does. Now you hit enter and it calculates that for you. Okay? Now we want to copy this formula over, but I want to show you another way of doing this. We typed it in, but instead I'm going to actually click and select. So I'm going to do the equal sign. And I'm going to say C6 by clicking on it minus C17 by clicking on it, and then hit enter. Does the same thing, it's just less room for error because I'm not typing it. Okay, so now I'm going to take my fill handle and I'm going to copy that all the way over. C19 to N19. And then this is the end of the first part of the textbook project. So it asks you to go ahead and save it. Now this is where you need to kind of change what the book says, okay, and go back to your document here, okay. So if you go to step 2 of 2, notice here the expected file name. Linda_Fox_budget_your name. Okay, so this is what you need to save your file as. So if I go back to Excel, I'm going to do a file and I'm going to say a save as. And I'll go ahead and do it in my downloads, which I've got a gazillion things in here already. You can see I've done this many times already. And then I'm going to change this and take out the new Microsoft Excel workbook. And I'm going to do Linda_Fox_budget. And hit enter. Okay, so now I've named it properly for Cengage. So Cengage is going to be happy. And we're going to continue on. So now that we have all of our data in, the rest of the chapter is talking about how to format it. Let's make it nice and pretty so that you can easily see your information and make sense of it, what's a heading and what's a total, and we're gonna color the lines separately so that they stand out and you can tell, you know, one line from another and you don't get all cross-eyed looking at these spreadsheets. Okay, so I'm going to start with cell A1. First thing we're going to do is we're going to change the cell style. Okay, so in the cell style, if you click on A1, here on your home tab, you have styles right here. I'm going to hit the down arrow. Okay, and as you hover over some of these, you'll notice how it changes. Okay, so I want to I'm going to set this to a title, cell style, okay. And then on cell C2, I am also going to, well, no, I'm going to change the font instead of the style, okay. So I'm going to take, I'm going to go to the font here, and I want Calibri Light, so this one, okay. So that changed my font. I believe we still want the font size 11. Okay. Then in cell A1, we want to make this bold. So I'm going to click the bold tab, or yeah, the bold icon. For cell A1. And then I'm going to bold cell A2. So I want to bold both of them. Okay, and then with cell A2 selected, we're going to change the font size to 14. So here's your font size where it says 11. I'm going to hit the down arrow and I'm going to choose 14. Okay. And then I want to change the font colors now. So I'm going to go to cell A1, and this is your font color here. So I'm going to hit the down arrow, and I want orange accent 2. So orange accent 2 right there. And then cell A2, I want to do the same thing. Now, since I'm using the same font color, you can just click the font color here because it's going to use the last font color that you were using. Okay. Okay. So now we have it set up in colors, and you know, things are starting to stand out, bigger titles, so on and so forth. Now we're going to make this title go across our whole spreadsheet. This is called merging cells, okay? And we have a button here that's merge and center. We've also got merge across or just merge, and then there's an unmerge. Okay, so I'm going to take A1 through N1. I'm going to select all of those, and then I'm going to say merge and center. So now it makes it one big cell that goes across all the way through to N. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for A2, and I'm going to say merge and center. So now they're really starting to look like titles. Okay, now A3 through N3. Select those, and we're going to change the cell style to heading 1. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing for A8 through N8. Heading 1. Okay, now we're going to format our rows in here. Okay. We're going to do A6 to N6 as the total cells. So I'm going to click total over here. Notice it puts a little line on top and a double line on bottom. I'm going to do the same thing for A17 through N17, total. And then A19 through N19 here, I'm going to do with the accent 2 cell style. So here's accent 2. And then we're going to format certain ranges with different color schemes. So to do this, I'm going to select A4 through N4, and then I'm going to hold down my control key. Okay, holding down your control key means that you're going to select non-adjacent cells. So I'm going to hold down my control key, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to do A9 through N9, A11 through N11, A13 through N13, and then A15 through N13 or 15. Okay, and we're going to do those with a 20% accent 2. So here's 20% accent 2. And then the other cells, or the other rows, I'm going to select those, again, by holding down your control key. And I want the 40% accent 2. So now each of my rows is shaded different, so it makes it a little bit easier to tell which numbers are in which rows. Okay, so that's how we formatted it to kind of look a little nicer. Now we're going to start formatting our numbers. Notice how we can't tell that these are dollar signs, and there's no thousand separator or anything like that. Well, we're going to change that. Okay, so we're going to choose B4 through N4. And we're going to choose the accounting number format. So again, here on your home tab, here's your number formatting. You can click the down arrow here and choose accounting. It will do it. Or you can click this dollar sign. This dollar sign means accounting. So I'm going to click accounting. Notice how it puts the dollar sign and a decimal and a comma. So I did that for B4 to N4. And then in B5 to N5 here, I'm going to do the comma format. So this is the comma style, which all that does is it puts the thousand separator in it. Okay, and then it adds dashes for your zeros. Makes it a little bit cleaner than seeing all those zeros. Okay, then B6 to N6. And we're going to do the accounting number format again. Okay. Okay, now we're going to do this little group down here. So we want B9 through N9. And then I'm going to hold down my control key because I also want B17 through N17 as well as B19 through N19. We're going to do the accounting number format. And then everything else in between B10 through N19, we want the comma style. Okay. So now our numbers actually look like accounting numbers and numbers that we can read, and we've got it looking a little bit nicer, but notice how our cells are kind of overlapping each other. That's what we want to fix next. Okay? So there's several ways to do this. I typically will do just a best fit on everything that I do, but of course, the book doesn't want you to do that. They want you to learn multiple methods, so we're going to learn multiple methods, right? Okay, so the first method we're going to do is actually called the best fit method. If you come over here and hover between A and B, notice how my cursor changes, okay, to a split double arrow. If I double click, it says, okay, expand that row, or that column rather, to be as big as it needs to be for the biggest thing in that column, which happens in our case to be either entertainment or miscellaneous. So now they all encompass one row, or one cell, column. Okay. Okay, then it says it actually doesn't have you do it multiple ways, but that's okay. Then it says to do, it says repeat the steps to adjust the column widths of B through N. So they want you to go through and double click on each of these. Well, you know what? I got an easier way for you. If you actually hover over B, notice how my arrow now turns to a down arrow. That selects the entire column. Now if I come across and I go like that, now if I double click on one, it does them all in one shot. Much easier, much faster. Okay. Next step. We are going to click the name box in the formula bar and then type A3. So this is your name box right here. This lists where your cursor, what cell your cursor is currently in. So if I highlight that and say A3 and hit enter, my cursor goes to A3. That cell is what is selected. Okay. You can actually change the names of boxes if you want to, or names of ranges of cells and those types of things, but that's just one way of moving your cursor around. Okay? Okay, so now we have a pretty good looking little spreadsheet here. And I'm going to go ahead and save this just so that I don't lose any of my work. So I'm saving that. The next step in this chapter is actually to create a pie chart. Okay, so we want a chart to graph our expenses. And in our case, we actually want to do a 3D pie chart. So I am going to select B9 through B16. And then I'm going to hold down my control key and I'm going to select N9 through N16. Okay, so this is saying these are my labels, these are my data points. Okay, then I'm going to come into the Insert tab and I'm going to go here for charts, and here's the pie charts, and I'm going to hit the down arrow and I'm going to select 3D pie. And notice how it automatically kind of creates my little pie chart for me. Okay, so a couple of things that we're going to do is we're going to kind of change the title of this. We're going to change the style of it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the title. So if you just double click in here to select everything, and then we're going to type monthly expenses. Okay. Then we're going to change the style. Notice here we've got different styles, chart styles. Okay. You can do it through up here. You can also hit this paintbrush button right here, and it shows you styles as well. We want style 5. Okay, that's style 8. Here is style 5. This is the one that we want. You can select it up here as well. They both do exactly the same thing. Okay, if you used this chart styles gallery here, go ahead and click it again to make that go away. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is, okay, this is kind of in our way, right? We can't see the rest of our spreadsheet. We want it to print nice and big if we were to print this out like on its own page. So we're actually going to move this to its own sheet. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to say move chart. And I'm going to say a new sheet, and we're going to name it monthly expense chart. And say OK. So now we have its own little sheet down here, that monthly expense chart. Now notice I misspelled this. I didn't put a space here. So I'm going to right click on the name of the sheet, and I'm going to say rename, and I'm going to put my space in there. That would have caused Pearson to grade my entire chart incorrectly as wrong. Okay. Now we're going to go back to sheet 1, and we're going to rename this sheet. So right click on sheet 1, say rename, and this is going to be monthly finances. Again, make sure you spell it correctly and put spaces in there. And now we're going to change what are called the tab color. So to make it kind of stand out a little bit, it says to use a color that matches your shirt. Basically means whatever color you want. Okay. I'm wearing a black shirt, so I'm really not going to choose black. But I'm going to choose this dark red. Okay. So when you click off of it, you'll see how it really stands out. When you click on it, you'll see how it has that shaded look to it. Okay. I'm going to save this again. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to change how this is going to be laid out on a page. So if you were to print it out, how many pages is it going to take? How is it going to look on the page? Those are the types of things that we want to change. Okay. So we want to go to what's called the backstage area. The backstage area is actually this file button. On this file button, it takes you to the backstage area, and we're going to go to print. Okay. Now my printer is actually not a color printer, so it's showing up as black and white. Yours may show up different. It doesn't really matter. I'm not actually going to print anything. It tells you to print. You don't need to print. Okay. If you want to, go for it. You're not going to print it and turn it into me. So don't worry about actually printing it. But we do need to change the settings. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to click portrait orientation down here and change it to landscape. We have a pretty long worksheet, so we wanted to print out landscape instead of portrait. Okay. And then we're going to go to the no scaling button, and we're going to say fit sheet on one page. Now, if your worksheet did this, like mine did, then we need to remove some rows and columns because it's really not supposed to look like that, okay? So I'm going to actually go back. I'm going to hit this arrow up here in the top left-hand corner. And I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to select row 21 and I'm going to go down. You don't have to go down as far as you possibly can, but go down a decent ways. Right-click on it and say delete, okay? And then I'm going to go to the right over here and I'm going to do the same thing, okay? For whatever reason, and I think it's because of how I auto fit, did a best fit on these columns, but it's registering all of these extra rows as part of my worksheet, and they're not, okay? Now, if I go back here to my print tab, and it still fits sheet on one page, you'll see it fits properly on one page. Okay. This is where it tells you to actually print. Well, we're not going to print. So from here, you can exit the backstage area and go back to your main worksheet. Okay. Now, we're going to show you some kind of tips and things that you can use to see things on your screen. Okay. We're going to use the auto calculate area. So when you start selecting cells, you have this area down here that's called your auto calculate. It calculates these basic things of what you have selected, what cells you have selected. Okay. So to customize this, I'm going to right click down here. Okay. And I want to display the maximum. So I'm going to click maximum. So now my maximum shows up. Okay. So now if I select B19 through M19, it's going to tell me which cells or what is my maximum number. Okay. It's going to tell me how many cells I have selected. It's going to tell me the average of those cells and the sum of those cells, but it's also going to show me the maximum. Okay. And then I'm going to just click out of there. And then it tells you they want you to deselect the maximum so that you don't have it in there. So go ahead and do that. And then it goes through some steps of, the book itself goes through some steps of like clearing cells and in text or, in cell editing. So if I needed to edit this cell, I can double click in it and I can start typing. Okay. If you start typing in a cell that it's the wrong cell, hit the escape key instead of hitting enter and it will abort whatever changes you've made. And that's really about it. So I'm going to hit the save button on here and I'm going to exit out of this. And I'm going to go here back to my Cengage and I'm going to click on this expected file name. Maybe. Come on. I may have timed. Oh, sorry. Wrong thing. I'm going to click on the upload over here. I'm not even looking. Click on the upload. I'm going to go to my downloads. And I'm going to find my Linda Fox. Like I said, I got a bunch of junk in here. Okay, Linda Fox budget, Carol Wiggins. And I'm going to say open. Okay, and it says ready to submit. I'm going to say submit. And it comes in and great, it's submitted, everything looks good. And then I'm going to say view report. When you view the report, it downloads a spreadsheet that has the report. When you open it up, okay, I did something wrong. It says here, oh, I missed a step. The monthly finances worksheet range A3 through N3 should be centered. I didn't do that. If I come over here to monthly finances, it gives me this little thing here. This is my grading error and it tells me exactly what's wrong. Okay. I don't want to change this file because it's my report file. So I'm going to exit out that. I apologize for missing that step. Let me go back to my downloads And let me get my report up. And I'm going to go A3 to N3. And I'm going to center it. And let me go back because I think we were supposed to center the other as well. And I didn't do it. Yes. So A8 through N8, you were supposed to center that as well. Okay. Resave it. I'm going to exit out of it. Go back to my Cengage. And at this point, I have to exit out. Go back into my project. I timed out. So let's try this again. Give me just a second. Okay, go back into your textbook project. I'm going to hit start again. Now I'm ready to go ahead and just upload the file itself. Submit it, and then view my report. Okay, this time I got 100 out of 100. Okay, you do have 3 submissions on every project. So do find your mistakes and correct them. Okay, I hope this helps you. I will do chapter 2 and get it posted as soon as I can. Let me know if you have any questions. Please don't hesitate to call me or text me or email me with any questions or problems that you may be having, and I'm more than happy to help you through those. Have a great day, rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.